So now the question is, what do you do if the fractions have different denominators? The answer is, we have to do that adjusting technique we talked about at the beginning. Okay, so what we're going to do is, if we don't like the denominators, we're going to change them. How do we change them? Remember, there was two ways to change them, and we're going to use the one that I said really didn't seem like we needed to do it. The one where we're going to take the top and bottom of the fraction and multiply it by a number. So let's look at an example of that. Okay, so let's try to add these fractions. Again, notice the problem here. The problem is that the fractions do not have the same denominator anymore. So how are we going to add them? Again, the deal is we need to have them have the same denominator. So what I'm going to do, and that's what the trick is we're going to multiply the top and bottom of this fraction by something. I don't know what yet. We're going to multiply the top and bottom of this fraction by something. Because remember, I can do that to either of those fractions and I'll change the fraction. I'll change the way it looks, but it'll be the same fraction, the same number. I want to change the way it looks, and I want it to look like the denominators are the same. So hopefully you can see that if I take this fraction and multiply top and bottom by 3, I will get 6 on the bottom. And if I multiply top and bottom of this by 2, I will also get 6 on the bottom. So that's what I'm going to do first. So I'm going to take this fraction and multiply the top and bottom of it by 3. And at the same time multiply top and bottom of this by 2. The only reason I'm doing that is because I noticed that if I did that, the bottom of this fraction will end up being 6, and so will this. So if I do that, this fraction, which was originally just 1/2, now is 3 over 6. This one, which was originally 1/3, is now 2 over 6. So the first step is I didn't do any adding yet. The first step was I transformed the number 1/2 into the number 3/6. I just changed the way the fraction looks. So it's the same fraction, but it looks different because the denominators are different. And I made them so that the denominator of each of these two fractions are the same. So now these two denominators are the same, and then I have the rule for adding when the denominators are the same. And the answer is, if the denominators are the same, that's going to be the answer of your final answer. So the denominator is 6 here, the denominator is 6 here, so the denominator of the final answer is going to be 6, and then you just add the tops. 3 plus 2 is 5. So the answer to this problem is 5/6. Okay, let's try one more like that. Okay, so now let's try to add 1/10 plus 5/4. Again, notice the problem that for adding is harder, remember, and they do not have the same denominator. So what we need to do is we need to adjust each fraction so that they do have the same denominator. So I'm going to multiply this fraction, I'm going to adjust the 1/10, I'm going to change it so that whatever happens, the denominator here is going to be the same as the denominator here when I adjust that one. So we're going to adjust both. So I'm going to multiply this one top and bottom by something, and multiply this one top and bottom by something. And again, I want to get the same bottom. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I noticed that if I multiply the top and bottom of this by 2, that I will get 20 on the bottom. And I can also get a 20 from a 4 if I multiply it by 5. So I'm going to take this fraction and multiply the top and bottom by 2. Again, reason, I'm going to get 20. And I can get a 20 down here as well if I multiply the top and bottom by 5. So notice we're multiplying the top and bottom by the same thing. Okay, so let's do that. And when I do that, the 1/10 adjusts to 2/20. And the 5/4 adjusts to 25/20. The point is that this fraction, the 5/4, and the 25/20, they're the same fraction, but this one has a different denominator. And the same thing here, the 1/10 and the 2/20 are the same fraction, but this one has a different denominator than that one. So they look different, but they're the same number. These two look different, but it's the same number. And the advantage now is when I'm adding, I have two fractions with the same denominator. So now I will just go ahead and add. And again, to add, if these two have the same denominator, your answer will have the same denominator. And then what do you do with the tops? You just add the tops if you're adding. So 2 plus 25, 27, and that is our final answer. So let me just give you one final recap of what happened. When you're multiplying fractions, remember, multiply the tops straight across, and that will be the top of your answer. Multiply the bottom straight across, and that will be the bottom of your answer. If you're dividing, make sure you flip the fractions that come right after the divide sign. If there's more than one, flip all the ones that come after a divide sign, and then multiply straight across. Okay, again, multiply tops, multiply the bottoms. If you're adding, remember that one is harder because the denominators have to be the same for you to add them. So if the denominators are the same, then the answer, your final answer will have the same denominator as the original fractions that you're adding, and you just add the tops. So the tops you add, the bottoms stay the same. If you're subtracting, same thing. If the denominators are the same, the denominator of your final answer will be the same denominator as the other ones, and you just subtract the tops. Then the only other problem is what happens if you're adding or subtracting and the denominators are not the same. Then what you have to do is you have to do this little adjusting thing that we've talked about, and basically you have to multiply the top and bottom of the fractions by something. You're going to have to come up with what it is. And in the end, you want to make sure that the denominators of all your fractions, after you've adjusted them, are the same. And then you can go ahead and add them. Okay, so that's it for today. I hope that helps. And good luck in your studies.